As many of you might know by now, the Illuvium staking period for all of the yield farming rewards has just ended. But there are still so many reasons you might want to stake, and there are so many reasons you might actually want to keep your tokens in the ILV ETH liquidity pool on SushiSwap, because unstaking it might not be the best course of action. I'm going to explain some of the mechanics of revenue distribution to help better explain that, reasons you might want to swap your stake and reasons you might not want to. Also, none of this constitutes financial advice, and I will not be discussing the ILV token price at all during this video, just talking about the mechanics, revenue distribution, and what we could be looking forward to as the game launches imminently. So first up, what is yield farming? For the past 3 years, okay, from start and that's wrong there. Okay, for the past 3 years, people have been able to stake in one of two different pools in Illuvium. There have also been some other things, but they're pretty negligible, so we won't really consider them. Basically, if you stake in these pools, you earned a share of ILV tokens that were distributed on a pretty much like a minute by minute basis, but they were in epochs of about 3 months. And over this, 1 month, sorry. Then over this time, you got ILV for doing basically nothing. As many would have noticed in the sushi liquidity pool, you would have actually earned a significantly higher amount than in the regular ILV pool. So then why would you stake in the ILV pool? Well, the sushi liquidity pool is a lot more risky because you're pairing ILV with Ethereum, and it's at the whims of liquidity and changes in token price and comparative token price. But in the ILV pool, it was a lot safer, and so we got a much smaller allocation of revenue. The other thing is revenue distribution. For anyone who doesn't know, Illuvium has a mechanic called revenue distribution. When Illuvium generates 500 Ethereum worth of revenue, they distribute it to everyone staked in the protocol. However, this is more complicated than just that on the surface. Anyone who has staked before, but I'm going to explain it for those of you who haven't. If you stake in Illuvium, you have a few options. You can stake for 1 month, 2 months, all the way up to 12 months. At 1 month, your token has a weight of 1.0, and at 12 months, your token has a weight of 2.0, which is the maximum you can get and gives you the best possible token. The other thing we need to consider is that in the Sushi Swaps pool, your stake will have half in Ethereum and half in ILV, and you will only receive revenue distribution on the ILV portion of that stake. But why is the token weight something I really want to focus on here? And that's because it is a large part of this entire equation. For example, this is how it works. If there are 100 people staked in the ILV token pool, and 50 of them are at a 1.0 stake, and the other 50 are at a 2.0 stake, then the ones that are at a 1.0 stake own about 25% of the pool, because everything at a 2.0 stake needs to be doubled. And so you actually have 150 tokens, or at least that's the total weight of it. You have 150 tokens. Everyone with that 50 token stake, they get 33% because they own 33% of those 150, which means that their tokens are worth about 30% less than those with the 50% less than those with the 2.0 stake, who are actually getting 30% more, and the 1.0 tokens are getting 30% less. And so if there was $100 to go around, every 1.0 weighted token would get about 70 cents. Every 2.0 weighted token would get about $1.30. Now, obviously the numbers are a little bit simplified for this, but that is the general gist of how that works. So the more people aren't locked up for the full 12 months, then the more tokens you will receive if you have locked up for the full 12 months. Now, I haven't been able to get the data again, okay? I was able to previously. I think you changed the dashboard. It's going to take a lot of work for me to get this, so I'm not going to get it. But I'm going to base it off how it was a long time ago. As you can see, this is all the stakers and things like that. If we quickly look at staking activity, you can see a lot of people are unstaking from the ILV pool, and even more are unstaking from the sushi pool. You can see pretty much all outflows in the past recent time. No one has added to their stake, which is perfectly natural. I don't think you should be adding to the sushi pool, but I don't necessarily think you should be taking it out of the sushi pool either. Because from memory, a long time ago when I was analyzing this data, in the sushi pool, about 30-40% of people actually had a 1.0 staked token. And so that meant that the 2.0 staked, or the ILV of people that have locked up for 12 months, they were actually set to get about 40 or 50, but I remember it being 40 or 50% more than they would have if those tokens were in the ILV pool. Now, obviously, you've got a 50-50 split in Ethereum and ILV, and so there's the trade-off. But that's where it gets interesting, is because if you go from memory, pretty much 90% of the tokens in that ILV pool were locked up for 12 months. And so what that means is this, is if you put a 1.0 token in that pool, for example, if you take your token out of the SLP pool right now and you stake it in the ILV pool for only 1 month, which is the minimum, then you're actually probably going to get about 50% of the rewards that you would get if you locked it up for the full 12 months. And so the premise is very, very simple here. If you don't plan on locking up the tokens for 12 months, I would actually leave them in the sushi pool. If you plan on locking them up for 12 months, then it probably makes sense, but there's so much risk inherent with that. We don't know when or if the bull run is coming, but if it is, we're looking about 12 months from now and when the big blow off top might happen. Nobody really knows. And so I would be really considering your decision here. And personally, I'm not in a rush. Myself, I'm not actually unstaking until I think it makes sense for me to do. I want to wait and see how much revenue comes out and all the rest of it. I want to see all the data first before I make a decision. I don't see any reason sacrificing my 2.0 lock on the sushi pool for the possibility of locking up for 1 month. Or because I don't really think locking up for 12 months is smart, maybe 7 or 8 months, but definitely not 12 months. And so I might actually be getting less tokens by taking it out of sushi and locking it up in ILV pool. Now, that being said, many people might have the same idea and they might also be locking up for just 1 month, in which case the effect is diminished. But let's have a look at this chart quickly, okay? Again, I'm not talking about price. So this is the chart of ILV against Ethereum. And as you can see in recent days or years, since November 2023, it has been on a steep decline. All I'm saying here is that this is a really large impact for the sushi pool. This basically dictates just how much ILV is going to be in your pool. For example, if you have a 50-50 split, so you have, let's say, half an Ethereum and that matches up in price to 10 ILV, I don't know. If the price of ILV against Ethereum goes down 50%, you're now going to have 20 ILV and whatever Ethereum is equivalent to that. And your ILV stack is actually going to grow over time. And so if you think this chart is going to keep going down and you want to grow your ILV, then holding it in the pairing might make sense. But if you think this chart is going to go up, then it might also make sense to withdraw it. Whatever you think and whatever is your personal situation is what you should go with. But here's the simple fact of it. The number one thing you should be considering right now is if you want to move over from the sushi pool to the ILV pool to effectively double the amount of tokens that are considered for revenue distribution by swapping the Ethereum into ILV, then I would not be doing it if you're only going to lock up for 1 month. If that was going to be the case, then I would be leaving it in the sushi pool for now. Unless you think ILV is going to like moonshot against ETH or whatever, then maybe taking it out makes sense and locking it up for 1 month or something like that. If you are planning on locking it up for 12 months in the ILV pool, then if that suits your personal situation, that is a very valid path to go down. Either way, I'm keeping mine and just waiting and watching. I'm in no rush to make any of these moves. When I rush, or when anyone rushes when it comes to finance, investing, or whatever else, that is when things go wrong. Keep a level head, watch what's happening with Illuvium, the game, its upcoming launch, and the potential revenue to come from Illuvitas, the game, and everything else, and watch that first. Once you start to see kind of what's happening behind the scenes, and keep watching my videos, of course, that is when you can make a fantastic decision. If you have not started playing the game yet, please use my link in the description and jump in. It is better than ever. Have a good one, guys.